Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll do my best to, first of all, touch upon some of the issues highlighted by Professor Arad, although I would ask you to move a bit your attention to Greece. And actually, my main question is how Greece, in particular, can achieve security. So I'll distinguish my presentation in two different parts. One would be on the diagnosis of the current situation. Greece is called upon developing a national security strategy, and the second one will be on policy recommendations on the therapy, let's say, section, consisting of particular policy recommendations. So my first remark, which has to do with the diagnosis of the situation, mainly has to do with Professor Sarad remark that every national security strategy is unique. And if one looks at Greece in particular, I think it might even argue that the case of Greece is a kind of a sui generis state, in the sense that Greece is geographically located on the verge of relative stability and total instability in an area which is actually on the verge of a place which has already been developed and has acquired a certain amount of stability, that is the European, let's say, part of the world. And on the other hand, the MENA region, a region of, to many analysts, a region of durable chaos, which is by all means overburdened and a highly unpredictable security environment. If one looks at this particular region of the world, it might easily find out that apart from traditional long-standing conflicts, there are also potential conflicts over energy resources in contested areas, and a series of non-traditional threats and challenges. So, to the extent that Greece has become the main recipient of most, I would say, of the security problems and asymmetric threats and challenges appearing in the Mediterranean region, it seems that, particularly at the time of severe economic crisis and in condition of budget austerity, Greece is called upon dealing with a rather demanding mixture of old and new security threats and challenges. So my first conclusion is that I would say Greece is compelled to do more with less, or as the Anglo-Saxons would put it, to punch beyond its weight. There are, at the top of this, there are certain institutional and I would call them cultural impediments to Greece's quest to deal effectively with such an unpredictable security environment. I would include in the first package of institutional obstacles, number one, it seems that there is still lacking, Greece is lacking a coherent and comprehensive crisis management system. There is also a lack of, I would say, functional linkage and complementarity among the various pillars of Greece's national security strategy, that is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of the Citizens Protection, both in peacetime and especially during crisis. Number three, the Government Council of Foreign Affairs and Defense, the so-called KISEA. One may also note on this particular institutional mechanism a series of deficits regarding a lack of first of all, a reliable support mechanism, for example, a kind of a secretariat, plus the fact that the agenda of the Government Council is being limited to defense and military security, and less to non-military crises, or furthermore to new asymmetric threats and challenges. And last but not least, there is still a lack of the institutional documents, of the official text, if you like, in some of the main pillars of Greece's national security strategy, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the Ministry of the Citizen Protection, that would make the necessary prioritization between vital on the one hand and secondary on the other hand interests, as well as stating the means to those interest attainment. In other words, it seems that there is a lack of clearly defined means and chain. With regard to cultural obstacles, I would rather refer to the fact that the security agenda is being dominated by the Turkish threat. And although perceptions at the decision makers level changed, particularly from the mid-90s to mid-2000s, when Turkey was not viewed as an existential threat, but as a manageable risk. Today, and I think you all share this view, it seems that security dilemma considerations about Turkey prevail, and that makes it difficult for the new threats and challenges to be incorporated in the official security discourse in a comprehensive, I would say, manner, and thus for Greece to adapt to various new and emerging threats and challenges. So the big question, what should be done, or what can be done, particularly on the so-called big picture, the Greece's national security strategy. Number one, I think there should be a realization on the part of Greek decision makers, a kind of an acknowledgement of the need for a new security blueprint, for a coherent roadmap that will tell us how to match identified means and resources with the promotion of particular interests. We are close, I must say, to that point, but not on that point. And although real-life cases dictate or suggest we should have been there already. Number two, and most important one, is it has to do with the reform of the current institutional framework, in the sense that this new language of national security strategy should match with appropriate policy changes. Meaning we have to proceed with an institutional restructuring so as to create a comprehensive and coherent institutional framework. One may call it National Security Council, or you may call it as you like. The thing is that this particular mechanism has to provide particular, would allow, I would say, for, first of all, threats to be identified and prioritized, and strategies to be defined. And this is, for threats to be identified, and prioritized is a rather important thing. It is indeed quite important to identify among threats, risks, vulnerabilities, challenges, or surprise attacks, the so-called black swans. It does matter, for example, how should Islamist radicalization or Islamist terrorism be characterized? Is it a threat? Is it a risk? Is it a vulnerability? And particularly, how should it be prioritized in Greece's security agenda for dealing with it? Number two, building a crisis management mechanism. A mechanism that would allow, that would provide on-time threat analysis and assessment, coordination among all involved agencies, and follow-up implementation. A kind of, I would say, crisis management mechanism able to deal with the type of crisis Greece has faced over the last 2 or 3 weeks of the EMEA islets, for example, kind of crisis of low intensity. And last, but not least, again, particularly given the fluidity of security challenges that are present in multiple sectors and that they move through different levels of analysis, we should have all relevant stakeholders of security on board. This is very important. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Citizen Protection, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Economy, and have all them incorporated into that structure so as to advance operational efficiencies and synergies among them. Let me conclude with a note of caution, I would say. I think the enterprise of institutional restructuring should be non-partisan. It should indeed be the product of a consensus among political parties. It seems that it is. Security is a very sensitive issue. It can easily lead to polarization, and I believe that Greek society does not have the luxury to any kind of polarization, particularly over how best it can achieve security. Thank you.
Thank you.